So, in my journey to healing and finding happiness within motherhood and this life that God has given me, one of the things that I am prioritizing to work on is the way that I think, because the way that we think, it impacts the way that we act and how we respond. I started journaling again. This is a major way, my kids wrote on this. This is a major way that I'm working through my negative thoughts, because there's like negative thoughts that I kind of naturally lean towards that I know are a big reason why I respond poorly to certain behaviors that I see my kids do, or that my husband does, or that I do myself and anyone else, because I've formed this negative thought pattern that now whenever I'm put in situations that usually go into these thought patterns, my natural reaction is to feel insecure, to feel angry, to feel shame, to be critical, to be spiteful, to have a lack of patience, because I've formed this continuous pattern of negative thinking. And I know if I want to grow in motherhood and be, the best mom that I can be, and I've always dreamed of being a mom and championing children, my children, to be positive, healthy, confident, God-fearing people. And to do that, I know that I have to work on myself and be the best that I can be with the help of God. And transforming my thoughts is something that God has really been highlighting to me. I'm reading this book. It's called Live No Lies. It's by John Mark Comer. It has been such a good book because it's like a guide to a lot of truths that just they confront and threaten the right things. Like, they threaten your ego, your pride, your bad habits, and they kind of just show you the way that you need to live. That's what's happening with this book and the truth that it is speaking. It's really threatening my bad behavior, because it's showing me the truth of that God has spoken and putting it in a way that's practical for me to apply into my life. And one of the major ways has been towards thinking. I read this today and it was really good, so I'm gonna read it. It says here, with every decision we make to complain, criticize, play the victim, focus on the negative, and so on, we become more and more the kind of person who is by nature negative, grouchy, unhappy, and unpleasant to be around, until eventually we lose the capacity to live happily, gratefully, and full of wonder at our lives in God's good world. And it's just showing me that because I've built this pattern of thinking negatively and complaining a lot and being pessimistic, it's made it difficult for me to have the ability to live a life where most of my days are full of joy and gratitude and peace and kindness, and I'm being compassionate and I'm a fun person to be around, because I've built this consistent pattern of negative thinking. But in the same way of thinking poorly and having poor habits, how it kind of now creates this nature in us of living negatively and pessimistically, we can think positively, we can be healthy, say things that are impactful, do things that benefit our children, our spouses, the people around us, that benefit ourselves, and just think healthy thoughts. That becomes our nature. So it's not impossible to transform your thinking. It's what I'm learning. It's just something that takes time and effort to partner up with God, to sit alone and be still and just tackle on the negative thoughts. And the more and more that you confront the negative thoughts and you speak the truth instead, or you think the truth instead, then now this becomes your nature. This becomes your character. This is something else that he said in the book that I thought was really good. It says, in the beginning, we have a choice, but eventually we will have a character. Like at first, it's just making the choice to not be quick to anger with our kids, as soon as they throw a tantrum, but making a choice to show compassion, be merciful, to guide them through it, to help them understand their emotions. At first, it's just making that choice, and then it just becomes our nature. I read in this book as well as how at first it's like putting on this act, or as C.S. Lewis says in Mere Christianity, he talks about having this mask of Christ that you put on, where you're acting as Christ would, right? In situations that are difficult, you're forgiving those who you don't are difficult to forgive, you're loving your enemies, you're giving your jacket to the person who's harmed you, right? All these situations are basically showing to love and have compassion and to be a good person. And the more that you wear this mask, the more that you act in this way, it becomes who you are. And these choices eventually become our character. And so that is the major thing. Probably from everything, this is my main priority, because I know I have a lot of poor thinking patterns. And one way that I'm working to change these poor thinking patterns is by journaling. And I literally just title it Transforming Thoughts. And I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to share one of the thoughts that I have here. Let's see. Here we go, right here. I can't do this anymore. It's too hard. This is a thought that occurs a lot for me when it's a lot of things have happened in my day. If my kids were crying back to back, if there's a mess that I've cleaned over and over and over again in the kitchen, and I start to think, oh my gosh, I can't do this. This is too hard. This can't be my life. It's too much. It's too hard. That way of thinking, it only creates a negative response, where maybe I'm falling into depression, or then I go and I complain, or I lash out on my kids, or I'm acting all grouchy and pessimistic, and nobody wants to be around me because of it. So instead of that thought, I wrote on the bottom to transform it to, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. And just this reminder of yes, this is not easy. Life is not supposed to be easy. Difficult things, even stressful things, are meant to build your character. They're meant to build your endurance. They're meant to create in you pure heart, humility, and especially when it comes to parenthood. There's so much that you're confronted with internally. And it's not so that you can be pessimistic and grouchy and have this horrible life, but it's meant to build your character. There's things that we face in life that is just meant to build us and strengthen us, not to make us people who are hard to be around because we hate our life because it's hard. Hard does not mean it's bad. We can live a good life because joy is a choice that eventually it becomes a character, right? Being gratitude and counting your blessing is a choice until it becomes our character. And so that is my priority. This has to be the way that I live, because this is how I'm going to see God more in my world and in my children and my husband and myself. And this is how I'm going to be the mom that, I've desired to be since, I had my first kid, So I'm very, very humbled by this journey, because it really it's shown me where I need to be and where I'm headed. So if you don't journal your negative thoughts, I highly suggest it, because it really is a good way to figure out, okay, how should I think instead?